You should not go there." The elder's voice cracked with age and fear as Iris tied her worn cloak tighter around her shoulders. "No one who enters the cursed forest returns. That beast will tear you apart before you can even scream." Iris looked back at the small cottage where her sister lay dying. Her skin pale as moonlight, her breathing shallow and rattling. The fever had taken hold 3 days ago, and the village healer had shaken his head with that look of helpless resignation she had come to know too well. There was only one cure, a silver bloom that grew only in the deepest part of the forbidden woods, the woods where the beast lived. "I do not have a choice," Iris said quietly, and she meant it with every fiber of her being. The elder grabbed her arm, his grip surprisingly strong for someone so frail. "That thing is not a wolf anymore. It is not even a man. The Alpha King was cursed 30 years ago, and whatever he was before, he is pure rage and hunger now. He has killed everyone who dared enter his territory." Iris gently removed his hand from her arm. "Then I will be the first he does not kill," she said. And before he could argue further, she turned and walked toward the tree line, where the forest waited like an open mouth, ready to swallow her whole. The moment Iris crossed into the cursed forest, the air changed. It became thicker, heavier, as if the very atmosphere was warning her to turn back. The trees here were older than any she had ever seen. Their trunks twisted and gnarled, their branches reaching toward each other overhead to form a canopy so dense that barely any sunlight penetrated through. The ground beneath her feet was soft with decades of undisturbed leaves and moss. Every step she took seemed too loud in the oppressive silence. No birds sang here, no insects buzzed. It was as if all life had learned long ago to avoid this place. Iris walked for hours, her heart pounding but her resolve unwavering. She thought of Lily, her baby, sister who still believed in fairy tales and happy endings, who did not deserve to die at 16, because the world was cruel and medicine was expensive, and their family had nothing. If there was even a chance that this silver bloom could save her, Iris would face 1,000 beasts. She would face death itself. The sun was setting when Iris finally found what she was looking for. In a small clearing, where a shaft of dying light broke through the canopy, she saw them. Silver blooms, delicate. Flowers that seemed to glow with their own ethereal light, their petals the color of starlight. Iris rushed forward and knelt beside them, her hands trembling as she carefully began to gather the flowers into her satchel. She needed at least a dozen for the remedy to work. She was so focused on her task, so desperate and relieved to have found them, that she did not hear the low growl until it was almost too late. Iris froze. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run, but she knew that running from a predator was the worst thing she could do. Slowly, so slowly it hurt, she turned her head. And there he was, the beast. He stood at the edge of the clearing, massive and terrifying, his form more wolf than man, but not quite either. He was easily 7 feet tall, his body covered in dark fur that was matted with old blood and scars that spoke of countless battles. His claws were as long as daggers, his teeth bared in a snarl that promised violence. But it was his eyes that made Iris's breath catch in her throat. They were not the eyes of an animal. They were golden and tortured and impossibly human, filled with rage, yes, but also with a pain so deep it seemed bottomless. "I am sorry," Iris said, and her voice came out steadier than she expected. "I did not mean to intrude on your territory." The beast's growl deepened, a sound that vibrated through the ground beneath her knees. He took a step forward, and Iris could see every muscle in his powerful body coiled and ready to strike. She should have been terrified. She should have been begging for her life. But instead, she found herself looking into those golden eyes and seeing something that made her heart ache. Loneliness. A loneliness so profound it made her own years of isolation seem like nothing. "My sister is dying," Iris continued, her voice soft but clear. "These flowers are the only thing that can save her. I know you have every right to kill me for trespassing. I know you probably will. But, please, let me take these back to her first. After that, you can do whatever you want with me. I will not fight you. I will not run. Just let me save her first." The beast stopped, his head tilted slightly, as if he was trying to understand her words, as if language was something he had forgotten how to process. He took another step forward, and Iris forced herself to remain still, even as every survival instinct screamed at her to flee. He was close enough now that she could smell him, a mixture of earth and pine and something wild and dangerous. Close enough that she could see the intelligence flickering in those eyes, fighting against the curse that tried to bury it. "I can see you," Iris whispered, and she did not know why she said it, only that it felt true and important. "I can see that you are still in there. You are not just a beast. You are not just a monster. Whoever you were before, whatever they did to you, you are still in there fighting." Something changed in the beast's eyes. The rage flickered, and for just a moment, Iris saw confusion, surprise. As if no one had spoken to him like this in so long, he had forgotten what it felt like to be seen as anything other than a creature to fear. He leaned closer, so close that Iris could feel his hot breath on her face, and she waited for the killing blow. But it did not come. Instead, the beast made a sound that was almost questioning, almost plaintive. His massive head lowered until it was level with hers, and Iris did. Something that later she would realize was either the bravest or most foolish thing she had ever done. She reached out slowly, telegraphing her movement, and placed her hand on the side of his face. The beast flinched. His entire body went rigid, and for a heartbeat Iris thought he would snap her neck. But then, incredibly, he leaned into her touch, just slightly, just enough, and Iris felt tears prick her eyes because she understood in that moment just how touch-starved, how desperately lonely this creature must have been. How long had it been since anyone had touched him with gentleness instead of weapons? How long since anyone had looked at him and seen a person instead of a monster? "What is your name?" Iris asked softly. "You have one, do not you? A name you almost remember?" The beast pulled back suddenly, and the confusion in his eyes turned to something like anguish. He opened his mouth, and a sound came out that was trying desperately to be words but could not quite form them. It was heartbreaking. He shook his head violently, his claws digging into the earth, and Iris realized he was frustrated. He was trying to remember, trying to speak, trying to be human again. "It is all right," Iris said gently. "You do not have to remember right now, but I think you will. I think you are stronger than whatever curse is holding you." The beast looked at her for a long moment, and then he did something that shocked Iris to her core. He carefully, deliberately, pushed the satchel of silver blooms toward her with one massive claw. He was letting her go. He was letting her take the flowers. "Thank you," Iris breathed, and she meant it with her whole heart. She gathered the satchel and stood slowly, never taking her eyes off him. "Thank you. I will not forget this. I will not forget you." She began to back away toward the path she had come from, and the beast watched her go with those haunted golden eyes. But just before she disappeared into the trees, Iris stopped. She did not know what made her do it. Some instinct, some pull she did not understand. "I will come back," she said. "After I save my sister, I will come back. You should not be alone out here." The beast's eyes widened, and he made that almost human sound again. This time, it sounded like hope. If you are enjoying this story, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories like this one. Iris ran through the forest as darkness fell completely, her heart pounding. Not from fear now, but from urgency. She had to get back to Lily. She had to brew the remedy before it was too late. The journey back seemed to take half the time, as if the forest itself was helping her, clearing her path, urging her forward. When she finally burst through the tree line into her village, the elder was sitting on his porch, and his face went white when he saw her. "You survived," he gasped. "How is that possible? No one survives the beast." But Iris did not stop to explain. She ran straight to her cottage where her sister lay motionless in bed, their elderly neighbor sitting beside her with tears streaming down her face. "Iris," the old woman sobbed. "She is barely breathing. I do not think she has much time." Iris's hands shook as she quickly crushed the silver blooms and began to brew them according to the ancient recipe the healer had reluctantly shared. The flowers dissolved into the boiling water and turned it a luminous silver color that seemed to hold moonlight itself. She let it steep, every second feeling like an eternity, and then carefully brought the cup to Lily's lips. "Come on, little sister," Iris whispered as she helped Lily drink. "Come back to me. You have to come back." For several agonizing minutes, nothing happened. Lily lay still and pale, and Iris felt hope beginning to crumble inside her chest. But then, slowly, color began to return to Lily's cheeks. Her breathing deepened, became stronger, more regular. Her eyelids fluttered. Lily's voice was weak, but clear. "Is that you?" Iris burst into tears and gathered her sister into her arms, holding her tight and thanking every god she could name. The remedy had worked. Lily was going to live. Over the next 3 days, Lily's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. She went from barely breathing to sitting up, to walking around the cottage, to laughing again. The village called it a divine miracle. Only Iris knew the truth. Only Iris knew what the real miracle had been. That the beast had let her live. That he had seen her humanity and responded with his own buried compassion. That somewhere beneath all that fur and rage and cursed transformation, there was still a person trapped and suffering. And Iris could not stop thinking about him. About those golden eyes filled with such desperate loneliness. About the way he had leaned into her touch as if it was the first kindness he had known in decades. About the sound he made when she promised to come back. A sound like hope. "You are going back, are not you?" Lily asked on the 4th day. She was sitting by the window, color fully returned to her face, looking more alive than she had in months. Back to the forest, back to him. Iris looked at her sister in surprise. "How did you know?" Lily smiled softly. "Because I know you. You have never been able to walk away from something suffering. Remember when you found that injured wolf pup and nursed it back to health, even though everyone said it would turn on? You? Remember how you spent weeks caring for it until it was strong enough to return to the wild?" Iris remembered. She also remembered how the wolf had never attacked her, how it had looked at her with gratitude before running back into the forest, how she had always felt connected to wild things, understood by them in ways she never quite was by people. "He is not just a beast, Lily," Iris said quietly. "He is cursed. He is trapped. And I think he has been alone for so long that he has forgotten what it is like to be anything else." Lily reached out and took her hand. "Then you should go to him. But Iris, be careful. Curses are not broken easily, and whoever cursed an Alpha King must have been incredibly powerful. You might be walking into something dangerous." Iris knew her sister was right, but she also knew she had to go back. Not just because she had promised, though that was part of it, but because when she closed her eyes, she could still feel the beast's face under her palm, could still see that flicker of humanity in his eyes, could still hear that almost word that had tried to escape his throat. Someone had to help him. Someone had to try. And maybe, somehow, that someone was supposed to be her. "I will be careful," Iris promised, "but I have to try. I cannot leave him there suffering if there is any chance I can help." Lily squeezed her hand. I know. Just promise me you will come back. Iris smiled. Always. The next morning, Iris packed a bag with food, water, bandages, and healing salves. If the beast was covered in scars, perhaps some of them still needed tending. If he had been alone for 30 years, perhaps he had wounds that had never properly healed. She also packed her grandmother's old journal, the one that contained stories and legends about the old magic, about curses, and how they worked. If she was going to help him, she needed to understand what had been done to him. The journey back to the cursed forest felt different this time. The oppressive silence was still there, but it did not feel quite as threatening. If anything, it felt expectant, as if the forest had been waiting for her to return, as if it knew she was coming. Iris made her way back to the clearing where she had found the silver blooms, hoping the beast might be there. He was not, but she could feel him watching, could sense his presence somewhere in the shadows of the trees. "I came back," Iris called out, her voice steady. "I told you I would. My sister is healed. She is going to live because of you. Because you let me take those flowers. I wanted to thank you properly." There was a rustling in the underbrush, and then the beast emerged from the tree line. He looked just as massive and scarred as before, but this time when he looked at her, there was no rage in his eyes, only wariness, and beneath that, cautious hope. He approached slowly, and Iris noticed he was limping. One of his back legs was not bearing weight properly. "You are hurt," she said, concern flooding through her. She set down her bag and pulled out bandages and salves. "Will you let me look at it? I have some skill with healing. I am not going to hurt you." The beast hesitated, and Iris could see the internal struggle playing out in his eyes. Trust did not come easily to someone who had been alone and hunted for so long. But finally, slowly, he lowered himself to the ground in front of her, his injured leg extended. Iris approached carefully and knelt beside him. Up. Close. She could see that his paw was badly cut, as if he had stepped on something sharp and the wound had become infected. "This is going to sting," she warned gently, and then she began to clean the wound. The beast growled, but it was a low, controlled sound, and he did not pull away. Iris worked as quickly and gently as she could, cleaning out the infection, applying her strongest healing salve, and wrapping the paw in clean bandages. "There," she said softly when she was done. "That should help. You need to stay off it for a few days if you can. Let it heal properly." The beast looked down at his bandaged paw, then back at her, and that almost human sound came from his throat again. This time it sounded distinctly like a question, like he was trying to ask why. Why was she helping him? Why had she come back? Why was she not afraid? "Because everyone deserves kindness," Iris said simply, as if she could understand his unspoken question. "And because I think you have been alone long. Enough. No one should have to be alone for 30 years. At the mention of time, something changed in the beast's expression. His eyes widened, and he made a series of sounds that were clearly trying to be words. He was frustrated, his claws digging into the earth again, his whole body tense with the effort of trying to communicate. 30 years, Iris repeated gently. That is how long ago the Alpha King disappeared. That is how long ago you were cursed. Am I right? The beast's eyes locked onto hers, and slowly, painfully, he nodded. It was the first truly human gesture Iris had seen from him, and it made her heart ache. "Do you remember who did this to you?" Iris asked. "Do you remember why?" The beast shook his head, but the frustration in his eyes told her he was trying so hard to remember, trying to break through whatever fog the curse had placed over his memories. "It is all right," Iris said soothingly. "We will figure it out together. I brought my grandmother's journal. She knew a lot about old magic and curses. Maybe there is something in here that can help." She pulled out the worn leather journal and began to flip through its pages. Her grandmother had been the village wise woman before she died, and she had filled this book with everything she knew about the old ways, the old magic that most people had forgotten or dismissed as superstition. Iris read passage after passage about transformation curses, about how they worked, about what it took to break them. Most required the one who cast the curse to willingly release it, which was obviously not going to happen. But there were a few mentions of other ways. True love's kiss, the willing sacrifice of someone pure of heart, the cursed one remembering their true name and speaking it aloud with conviction. "Your name," Iris said suddenly, looking up at the beast. "That is the key, is not it? If you can remember your name, if you can speak it, maybe that will break the curse. Or at least, weaken it." The beast's eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that was almost overwhelming. He opened his mouth again, and this time Iris could hear him really trying. The sound that came out was guttural, broken, but there was almost a syllable there. Almost. "Try again," Iris encouraged. "I know it is hard. I know the curse is fighting you. But you are stronger than it. I can see that you are. What is your name?" The beast closed his eyes, his whole body trembling with effort. When he opened them again, his eyes were glowing brighter than before, and he forced the sound out. "Ke," he managed. Just that. Just the beginning. But it was more than he had said in 30 years. "Ke," Iris repeated encouragingly. "That is good. That is really good. Ke what? Keep trying." The beast's frustration was palpable, but he tried again. "Ke," he growled out, and then his voice broke, and he let out a howl of pure anguish that echoed through the entire forest. Iris's eyes widened. "Kai?" she asked. "Is that it? Is your name Kai?" The beast looked at her, and tears were actually streaming down his furred face. He nodded once, hard, and then collapsed onto his side as if the effort of remembering, of speaking that single syllable, had completely exhausted him. Iris moved closer, and without thinking, placed her hand on his massive shoulder. "Kai," she said firmly. "Your name is Kai. You are Kai, not the beast, not the monster. Kai. An alpha king who was stolen his people and trapped in this form. But you are still Kai. And now that you remember that, we can fight this curse together." Kai, because she would think of him as Kai now and nothing else, made a sound that was unmistakably a sob. He turned his great head toward her, and Iris did something that shocked even herself. She lay down on the forest floor beside him and wrapped her arms around his massive neck as much as she could. "You are not alone anymore," she whispered. "I promise you are not alone." And there, in the heart of the cursed forest, the beast who had remembered he was Kai cried in the arms of a healer who had seen his humanity when no one else could. What do you think will happen next? Leave your predictions in the comments below. Iris stayed with Kai until the sun began to set, and she realized with a start that she would need to head back before complete darkness fell. "I have to go," she said reluctantly, pulling away from him. "But I will come back tomorrow. I promise. We are going to figure this out, Kai. We are going to break this curse." Kai watched her stand and gather her things, and the look in his golden eyes was so heartbreakingly vulnerable that Iris almost changed her mind about leaving. But Lily would worry if she did not return, and she needed to research more in her grandmother's journal, needed to find more information about breaking transformation curses. "Tomorrow," she repeated firmly, and Kai nodded slowly. As Iris made her way back through the forest, she could feel him watching her until she was out of sight, and she knew with absolute certainty that he would be waiting for her in that clearing when she returned. Over the next several weeks, Iris established a routine. Every morning she would pack supplies and make the journey into the cursed forest. Every day she would spend hours with Kai, talking to him, reading to him from her grandmother's journal, treating his various wounds and scars, and most importantly, helping him remember, helping him practice being human again. At first, progress was slow. Kai could only manage a handful of syllables, and even those clearly caused him immense pain and effort. But Iris was patient. She would sit with him for hours, encouraging him, celebrating every small victory, never showing frustration when he struggled. "Try to say my name," she suggested one afternoon as they sat in the clearing. "Iris. Can you say Iris?" Kai's eyes focused on her with that intense golden stare, and he tried. He managed, and then he growled in frustration when he could not get the rest out. "That is good," Iris encouraged. "That is really good, Kai. You got the first part. The rest will come." She reached out and stroked the fur on his head, a gesture that had become natural between them. Kai always leaned into her touch now, craving the physical affection he had been denied for 3 decades. "Do you remember anything else?" Iris asked. "About your life before? About who cursed you or why?" Kai closed his eyes, concentrating hard. Then he lifted one massive claw and began to scratch in the dirt. Iris watched in amazement as crude shapes began to form. A circle, lines radiating from it, and inside the circle, what looked like a female figure. "A woman?" Iris asked. "A woman cursed you?" Kai nodded emphatically, then added more to the drawing. A crown on the woman's head, and something else. What looked like tears falling from the circle. "A queen," Iris said, slowly, piecing it together. "A queen cursed you. And she was crying? She was sad?" Kai nodded again, but his eyes were confused, as if he did not fully understand why that detail mattered. As if the memory was there but fragmented. Why would a queen curse you if she was sad about it? Iris wondered aloud. Unless it was not really her choice. Unless someone forced her to do it. She looked at Kai with growing realization. Was this queen someone you knew? Someone close to you? Kai made a sound of distress and pawed at the ground, clearly struggling to remember. Iris placed her hand over his massive paw, stilling his agitated movements. "It is all right. Do not push too hard. The memories will come back when they are ready. You are doing so well, Kai. You have already come so far." And he had. Over those weeks, Iris watched as Kai slowly, painfully, began to reclaim pieces of his humanity. He could understand everything she said now, and he had started to manage short words. Yes. No. Iris, which came out as Is, but she always understood. Help. Stay. His vocabulary was limited, but it was growing. More than that, his behavior was changing. He was less wolf and more man with every passing day. He started to exhibit careful manners, moving more deliberately so as not to accidentally hurt her with his sighs. He would bring her things he thought she might need or like, flowers, or particularly nice stones. He was trying to court her, Iris realized one day with a start, in the only ways he currently could. And she found herself not minding, found herself looking forward to seeing him every day with an eagerness that went beyond simple compassion. The truth was, she was falling for him, for this gentle, broken soul who tried so hard to communicate with her, who looked at her like she was the sun itself, who had trusted her enough to let her into his world when he had every reason to trust no one. One day, about 6 weeks into their routine, Iris arrived at the clearing to find Kai waiting for her in a state of clear excitement. He was pacing back and forth, and the moment he saw her, he bounded over, making urgent sounds. "What is it?" Iris asked, concerned. "What is wrong?" But nothing was wrong. Kai led her deeper into the forest than she had ever gone before, to a place where the trees opened up to reveal something that made Iris gasp. Ruins. Ancient stone ruins that were clearly once a grand structure. Pieces of walls still stood, covered in moss. and vines. Broken columns reached toward the sky. And in the center, partially intact, was what looked like it had once been a throne room. "Is this yours?" Iris breathed. "Is this where you lived?" Kai nodded, and the sadness in his eyes was profound. This had been his kingdom, his palace. And now, it was nothing but rubble and memory. Iris walked through the ruins, trying to imagine what they had looked like in their glory. Kai followed her, and she could tell this place held both comfort and pain for him. It was a connection to who he had been, but it was also a reminder of everything he had lost. "You will have it back," Iris said with fierce conviction. "We are going to break this curse, Kai. You are going to reclaim your kingdom and your throne. I promise you that." Kai looked at her, and then he did something he had never done before. He very carefully, very deliberately, reached out with one clawed hand and touched her face. Just the back of one claw against her cheek, so gently it would not even leave a mark. It was the first time he had initiated touch with her, rather than just accepting hers. "Ace," he said, and the way he said it made her name sound like a prayer. "Kai," she responded, covering his massive paw with her small hand. And in that moment, standing in the ruins of his lost kingdom, something clicked into place between them. Something undeniable and powerful. The mate bond. Iris felt it snap into existence like a physical thing, a golden thread that tied her soul to his. She could suddenly feel his emotions as if they were her own. The desperate hope, the fierce protectiveness, the growing love, and underneath it all, the constant pain of fighting against the curse that still held him. "Oh," Iris gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "Kai, do you feel that?" Kai's eyes had widened, and he was staring at her with a mixture of wonder and fear. He nodded slowly. He felt it too. The bond. The undeniable connection that meant she was his mate, and he was hers. "This is why," Iris said, understanding flooding through her. "This is why I was able to help you when no one else could. This is why you let me live that first day. We are mates, Kai. We are meant to be together." The implications of that were enormous. Mate bonds were sacred among wolf shifters. They were rare and precious and unbreakable. But they also meant that Iris, a human healer from a poor village, was apparently destined to be bound to an alpha king. The universe certainly had a sense of humor. Kai made a sound that was almost a whimper, and Iris realized he was afraid. Afraid that the curse would hurt her. Afraid that being bonded to him would put her in danger. "I am not afraid," Iris said firmly. "I know this is complicated. I know you are still cursed. But Kai, the mate bond might be exactly what we need to break the curse. Think about it. Most transformation curses can be broken by true love. And what is more true than a mate bond?" Hope flared in, Kai's eyes, but it was tempered with caution. He had been disappointed too many times to let himself believe too easily. If you want to see how this story ends, make sure you are subscribed with notifications on. "We need to test something," Iris said, her mind racing. She pulled out her grandmother's journal and flipped to the section on curse breaking. "It says here that for a transformation curse to be broken by love, there usually needs to be a declaration, a moment where both parties acknowledge their feelings and commit to each other despite the obstacles." She looked up at Kai. "Can you do that? Can you tell me how you feel?" Kai's expression became determined. He opened his mouth, and with more effort than Iris had ever seen him put into anything, he forced the words out. "Love. You." 2 words. Barely more than growls. But they were words, and they were true, and they made Iris's heart swell with emotion so strong it threatened to overwhelm her. "I love you too," Iris said, tears streaming down her face. "I love you, Kai. Not despite what you have become, but for who you are underneath, for your gentleness and your strength and your resilience. I love you." The moment the words left her mouth, something changed. The air around them began to shimmer with golden light. Kai's eyes widened, and he let out a sound that was half gasp, half roar. His body began to shake, and Iris watched in amazement as his form started to shift. The transformation was not instant. It was clearly painful, and Kai was fighting for every inch of humanity he reclaimed. But slowly, impossibly, the fur began to recede. The massive size began to shrink. The claws retracted, and where there had been a beast, a man began to emerge. The process took several agonizing minutes, and when it was finally complete, Kai collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily. He was human, fully human, tall and powerfully built, with scars covering most of his body, his dark hair long and wild, but undeniably human. And his eyes, those same golden eyes Iris had fallen in love with, were now set in a face that was rough and masculine and more beautiful to her than anything she had ever seen. "Iris," Kai said, and his voice was hoarse from 30 years of disuse. But it was a human voice. "I can speak. I can actually speak." Iris fell to her knees beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his face, his shoulders, his chest, as if she needed to confirm he was real. "You did it," she sobbed. "Kai, you did it. You are human again." Kai grabbed her hands, his grip strong but careful. "We did it," he corrected. "I could never have done this without you, without your kindness, your patience, your love. You saved me, Iris. In every way a person can be saved." He pulled her to him and kissed her with all the desperate passion of someone who had thought they would never know such a connection again. Iris kissed him back just as fiercely, pouring all her love and relief and joy into the gesture. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Kai rested his forehead against hers. "I remember everything now," he said quietly. "The curse is broken, and the memories it suppressed are coming back. I know who did this to me. I know why. And Iris, there is something you need to know. Something about yourself." Iris pulled back slightly to look at him. "What do you mean?" Kai took a deep breath. "The queen who cursed me, her name was Seraphina. She was my aunt, my father's sister. She did not want to curse me. She did it because she was being controlled by a dark witch who wanted to take over my kingdom. The witch's name was Morgath, and she had one specific goal: to prevent me from ever meeting my true mate, because the prophecy said that when the Silver King found his mate, their combined power would be unstoppable. No dark magic could stand against it." He looked at Iris intensely. The prophecy spoke of a mate with the gift of healing, whose kindness could tame even the wildest beast, who carried the blood of the ancient moon druids in her veins. "Iris, that is you. You are not just a healer. You have ancient magic in your bloodline, magic that has been dormant until now." Iris stared at him in shock. "That is impossible. I am no one, just a village healer." "You are everything," Kai countered. "Think about it. How were you able to enter the cursed forest when everyone else who tried was killed? How were you able to approach me when I was at my most savage? How did your touch calm me when nothing else could? It was not just compassion, Iris. It was magic. Your magic recognizing mine. Your soul calling to mine." As if in response to his words, Iris felt something inside her shift and unfold. A warmth that started in her chest and spread outward until her entire body was glowing with soft silver light. Magic. Real, tangible magic that she had never known she possessed. "What is happening to me?" Iris asked, fear and wonder mixing in her voice. "Your power is awakening," Kai explained. "Now that we have bonded, now that you have broken my curse, your own magic is coming to the surface. And Iris, we are going to need it. because Morgath is still out there, and when she realizes I am free, she will come for us both." As if summoned by his words, a cold wind suddenly swept through the ruins. The temperature dropped dramatically, and Iris felt the hair on the back of her neck stand up. Dark clouds began to gather overhead with unnatural speed, blocking out the sun. "She knows," Kai said grimly, pulling Iris close and positioning himself protectively in front of her. "She knows I am free. She is coming." From the shadows of the ruined throne room, a figure emerged. A woman who might have been beautiful if not for the corruption that twisted her features. Her eyes were completely black, her skin pale as death, and dark magic swirled around her like smoke. "Well, well," Morgath said, her voice like poison. "The little beast has finally broken his curse, and with the help of the moon druid descendant, no less. How predictable, how utterly, boringly predictable." Kai growled, and Iris could see that even in his human form, he was ready to fight. "Your reign of terror ends today, Morgath. You have no power over me anymore." Morgath laughed, a sound that made Iris's skin crawl. "No power over you, perhaps. But your little mate is newly awakened, untrained, defenseless. It would be so easy to snuff out her light before it has a chance to truly shine. And once she is gone, you will have nothing to anchor you. You will fall back into the curse, and this time, there will be no one to save you." She raised her hands, and dark tendrils of magic shot toward Iris. Kai moved to intercept them, but he was not fast enough. The magic was going to hit her, was going to kill her. But in that split second, something inside Iris roared to life. The silver light that had been glowing gently now blazed like the sun. Dark magic hit it and simply disintegrated, unable to touch her. "Impossible," Morgath hissed, taking a step back. "You should not be that strong. Not yet. Not without training." "She has something you will never understand," Kai said, and there was fierce pride in his voice. "She has love. She has courage. And she has a mate bond with an alpha king. That makes her more powerful than you could ever dream of being." Iris felt the truth of his words resonate through her, the magic flowing through. Her veins was not just her own. It was connected to Kai, amplified by their bond, made stronger by their love. She was not some helpless girl who needed to be protected. She was a moon druid. She was an alpha king's mate, and she was done being afraid. "Leave," Iris said, and her voice rang with authority she did not know she possessed. "Leave this place and never return. Your power has no hold here anymore. You have lost, Morgath. Accept it." For a moment, Morgath looked like she might attack. Again. But then she seemed to truly see Iris for the first time. Seemed to see the silver light blazing around her. The way the very forest was responding to her presence. The way even the ruins of the old palace were beginning to glow, as if recognizing the magic of their true queen. Morgath's face twisted with rage, but beneath it, Iris could see fear. "This is not over," the witch spat. "You may have won today, but there are other ways to destroy a kingdom. Other ways to break an alpha king. I will be back." She dissolved into shadow and was gone, leaving only the lingering smell of decay in her wake. The moment she disappeared, the dark clouds began to break apart, and warm sunlight flooded back into the ruins. Iris sagged against Kai, suddenly exhausted. "Is it really over?" she asked. "Did we really win?" Kai wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "The immediate threat is over. But Morgath was right about one thing. She will come back. She will try again. But here is what she does not understand. She does not know that every day she stays away makes us stronger, gives us time to prepare, time for you to learn to use your magic, time for me to rebuild my kingdom." He pulled back to look at her seriously. "Iris, I need to ask you something important. I am an alpha king, and now that the curse is broken, I need to return to my people. I need to reclaim my throne and rebuild what was destroyed. But I cannot do it without you. I will not do it without you. Will you come with me? Will you be my queen?" Iris's breath caught. Queen. The word seemed too big, too impossible for someone like her. But when she looked into Kai's eyes, when she felt the mate bond thrumming between them, when she thought about everything they had already overcome together, she knew her answer. "Yes," she said. "I will go with you. I will stand beside you. I will be your queen, not because of destiny or prophecy, but because I choose you, because I love you, because we are stronger together than we could ever be apart." Kai's answering smile was radiant. He kissed her again, deep and thorough, and in that kiss was a promise of partnership, of shared power and shared purpose, of a future built on love and trust. When they finally broke apart, Kai took her hand. "Then let us go home," he said. "Let us show my people that their king has returned, and let me introduce them to the woman who saved me, the woman who will help me build a kingdom that is stronger and better than it ever was before." Hand in hand, Kai and Iris walked out of the ruins and began the journey toward what remained of his kingdom. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges and threats, and hard decisions to make. There would be courtiers who questioned Iris's right to be queen. There would be the constant threat of Morgath returning. There would be the difficult work of rebuilding a kingdom from ashes and memory. But there would also be love. There would be the unbreakable bond between them. There would be Iris's growing magic and Kai's strength and experience. There would be the support of loyal subjects who had waited 30 years for their king to return. And most importantly, there would be the knowledge that they had already overcome the impossible, that they had broken a curse that everyone said could not be broken, that they had found each other against all odds. As they walked, Iris noticed that the cursed forest was changing. The oppressive silence was lifting. Birds were beginning to sing again. Flowers were blooming along the path. The forest itself was healing, responding to Kai's freedom and Iris's magic. "It is beautiful," Iris murmured, looking around in wonder. "It always was," Kai said. "The curse just made everyone too afraid to see it. But you saw it, Iris. You have always been able to see beauty where others see only fear. That is one of the many reasons I love you." They reached the edge of the forest as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In the distance, Iris could see what looked like a small town. People were going about their evening routines, lighting lamps, closing shops, gathering their children inside. "That is the nearest settlement that still falls under my kingdom's protection," Kai explained. "Or at least it did 30 years ago. I do not know if they will even recognize me. I do not know if they will accept me after so long." Iris squeezed his hand. "There is only one way to find out. And Kai, no matter what happens, you are not alone. Not anymore." Kai squeezed back gratefully, and together they walked into the town. At first no one noticed them. They were just two more travelers as the daylight faded. But then an elderly man looked up from where he was closing his shop, and his eyes widened. His hands began to shake. "It cannot be," he whispered. "It cannot be." The marking on his wrist, the golden eyes, the bearing of an alpha. "It cannot be." He dropped to one knee. "My king, you have returned." The action drew attention from others on the street. One by one, people turned to look. One by one, recognition dawned. And one by one, they fell to their knees. "The Silver King lives," someone shouted. "The Silver King has returned." Within minutes, the entire town was gathering. People poured out of their homes and shops, drawn by the news that had seemed impossible. Their cursed king, the one they thought lost forever, was standing before them in human form. An elderly woman pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down her weathered face. "Kai," she sobbed. "My boy, my sweet boy. We thought you were dead. We mourned you. We never stopped mourning you." Kai's face crumpled with emotion, and he rushed forward to embrace her. "Mara," he said, "you are still here. You are still alive. I promised your mother I would wait for you," Mara said, clutching him tight. "I promised her on her deathbed that I would not give up hope. And here you are. Here you finally are." She pulled back and noticed Iris standing slightly apart from the reunion. "And who is this?" Mara asked, her sharp eyes taking in everything. The way Kai kept glancing at Iris as if to make sure she was still there. The way Iris glowed with that subtle silver light. The unmistakable mark of a fresh mate bond visible on both their wrists. "This is Iris," Kai said, and his voice was filled with such love and pride that it made several people in the crowd smile. "She is my mate. She is the one who broke the curse. She is the one who saved me when I had given up hope. And she is going to be your queen." There was a moment of stunned silence. Then Mara smiled, a smile that crinkled her entire face. A healer with moon druid blood and a heart kind enough to see past a curse to the man beneath. The prophecy spoke true. She approached Iris and took both her hands. "Welcome, child. Welcome to your kingdom. Welcome to your people. We have waited a long time for you." Other voices joined in. "Hail the Silver King. Hail our queen. Hail the breaking of the curse." The welcome was not universal. Iris could see some faces in the crowd that looked skeptical or even hostile. She could hear whispered doubts about her common origins, her human blood, her worthiness to stand beside an Alpha King. But she also saw hope. She saw joy. She saw people who had lived under the shadow of tragedy for 30 years, finally allowing themselves to believe in a better future. "We have much work to do," Kai announced to the crowd. "The kingdom has fallen into disrepair. Morgoth is still a threat. There will be challenges ahead. But I promise you this. I will be the king you deserve. Together with my mate and queen, I will rebuild what was lost. I will protect what remains. I will fight for a future where my people can live without fear. Will you stand with me?" The answer was a resounding roar of approval. These people had waited 3 decades for their king. They were not about to abandon him now. That night, the town held an impromptu celebration. Food was shared. Stories were told. Music was played for the first time in years. And through it all, Kai and Iris sat together, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder, both of them exhausted but happy. "Are you scared?" Kai asked her quietly as the celebration continued around them. "About everything that is coming? About being a queen?" "Terrified," Iris admitted honestly. "Know how to be a queen. I do not know how to rule a kingdom. I do not know how to control this magic that is waking up inside me. But Kai, I am also more certain than I have ever been about anything. This is where I am supposed to be. With you. With these people. I felt it the moment you let me take those silver blooms. I felt it every time I returned to you in that forest. This is my destiny. Our destiny." Kai kissed the top of her head. "We will learn together. We will make mistakes, and we will fix them. We will face challenges, and we will overcome them. Just like we already have. And Iris, thank you. Thank you for seeing me when I could not see myself. Thank you for speaking kindly to the beast when everyone else spoke only with fear. Thank you for reminding me of my name when I had forgotten what it meant to be human. You would have done the same for me," Iris said simply. "That is what mates do. That is what love does. It sees past the surface to the soul beneath. It fights for each other even when the fight seems impossible. It chooses hope over despair." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching their people. Because Iris realized that was what they were now, their people. Celebrate the return of their king. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tomorrow they would begin the hard work of rebuilding. Tomorrow they would have to deal with political complications and magical threats and all the complicated realities of rulership. But tonight, they had this. They had each other. They had survived the impossible and come out stronger on the other side. They had proven that curses could be broken, that love could triumph over the darkest magic, that kindness was not weakness, but the greatest strength of all. As the moon rose high overhead, casting silver light over the celebration, Iris felt her magic pulse in recognition. She was a moon druid. She was an alpha king's mate. She was going to be a queen. And she was ready. Ready to learn. Ready to grow. Ready to fight for this kingdom and these people who had already accepted her as one of their own. Ready to stand beside Kai and build a future that was better than the past. "I love you," she whispered to him. "I love you," he whispered back. And in those simple words was contained everything. All their hopes and dreams and promises. All their struggles and triumphs. All their future yet to come. The beast had remembered his name. The curse had been broken. The Silver King had returned. And the healer who had spoken kindly to him when he was lost in darkness now stood beside him as his queen, his mate, his equal, his love. It was not the ending. It was only the beginning. But it was a beginning filled with hope, with love, with magic, and with the unbreakable bond between two souls who had found each other against all odds. And that, Iris thought, as she looked out over the celebration, over the people who were now hers to protect and serve, over the kingdom she would help rebuild, and finally, at the man beside her, who had been a beast and was now a king. That was everything. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who loves epic romance. Tell me in the comments, did you see this ending coming?